has kept me away. But with that, I see that we have the majority of our board members there in person this evening. And then Mayor Pro Tem Sechrist is joining us by Zoom this evening as well. And we are without Alderman Morgan this evening, but otherwise everyone else is present. So it's good to see you all, and happy December to you. It's hard to believe it's here already. So with that, let's open up with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and Alderman Miller is going to lead us in both of those.
Okay, if you'll bow your head. Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for this joyful holiday season where we can celebrate the Savior. Thank you for all the wonderful people we have in our town. Many blessings to all the volunteers who work tirelessly. Pray for your joy, for the joy in your heart. Hope God give. Everybody will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Which is stand, nation, to God, indivisible, liberty.
All right, thank you, Alderman Miller. And with that, we will jump into our business for this evening. Our business tonight is twofold. With that, we will start with a public hearing this evening, and then the second order of business will be to review our December 14th, 2021 agenda for next week and settle on that agenda. So with that, we will open our public hearing at this time. This is a public hearing for a legislative hearing to obtain public comments on conditional rezoning case CZ-21-001. The owner of the property located at 200 South Salisbury Avenue, Rowan County, parcel ID 032164, has authorized the tenant of the property, Michael King, to submit to the town a rezoning application, petition to amend the official zoning map to rezone the property from C29, which is the US Highway 29 Commercial District, to VSR, Vehicle Service and Repair, for the purpose of operating a vehicle service business. Those who wish to address the Board of Aldermen are required to provide their name, address, and topic to be addressed, and the board will only listen at this time and not respond. A speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. And with that, I will ask our town clerk to be the timekeeper of those 3 minutes. And we will open up with staff comments from Mr. Kyle Harris.
All right, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I will begin with just a very brief staff presentation. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I will make reference to the 2 agenda items that were in your materials. The staff report that I provided for tonight, the primary purpose of that report was to demonstrate that staff have gone above and beyond to make sure we provided sufficient opportunity for public comment. We did widely notice the neighborhood meeting, the planning board meeting, and the hearing that's happening tonight to ensure we receive wide-ranging public input. So far, I have not received much response in terms of written statements submitted to me. Beyond the statements that were provided in your materials from the neighborhood meeting and the planning board meeting, I have not, as of this time, received any additional public comment. What I will ask, and I know this is a little bit unusual, is there anyone in the room? So with that being said, I will provide just a very brief overview of the case for the benefit of Ms. Talbot and anyone else who would like to speak. So the particular rezoning is a conditional rezoning of the subject property at 200 South Salisbury Avenue. Many of you will be familiar with that property. It's the property at the corner of 2nd Street and Salisbury Avenue, right next to the fire station and the community garden, that is currently being used as a vehicle repair business. The purpose of the rezoning is that the district that the property is in is actually not currently supportive of a vehicle service use. And so in order for the business to continue to lawfully operate, the Board of Aldermen will have to make a decision about whether to approve or not the conditional rezoning. The reason that this is a conditional rezoning is because so there are two types of rezoning. One is a conventional rezoning and the other is a conditional rezoning. When you get a conventional rezoning, the property owner is allowed to use the property for any use that's listed in the zoning district. The reason conditional zoning is a tool is because it allows the governing board to impose additional limitations and conditions on a use or development that may have negative impacts to the neighborhood. Now, in this case, the property is adjacent to a high-density historic residential neighborhood. And so the conditional zoning allows the board to essentially impose additional conditions to make sure that any adverse impacts, whether in terms of noise, visual clutter, traffic, and the like, can be regulated as part of this process. And the applicant has proposed a list of conditions in 5 categories related to the installation of fencing, screening and buffering, limitations on the hours of operation, and additional landscaping and site improvements as a way to try to convince the board that this is a use that should be allowed in this area. And so the reason that we're providing a public hearing tonight is, first of all, it's required by state statute, but also this is the last opportunity for the public broadly to weigh in on this particular rezone. And so again, even though my presentation tonight is fairly short, we did have a number of meetings prior to this in which there were PowerPoint presentations and we went over this in great detail. And the regular meeting next week on Tuesday, I will provide the board another recap with a little bit more detail. And at that time, the board will be asked to either approve, deny, or table the proposed. And so I guess at this point, I'll ask, before we get into the legislative hearing, do you have any specific questions for me about this process?
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. Does the board have questions at this time for Mr. Harris about the process in general, the process to date, and then the process for this particular hearing, and then our consideration on Tuesday of next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, 15. Night. For civic. Local. Those people.
So that's a good question. The strategy that the town used to notify tenants who may not be informed by the property owner is we'd put that sign out there in the front. And so that we had that out there for approximately the last month. So anyone regularly driving in to that neighborhood and seeing the property will see that large sign, and that sign will direct people to either me or the town clerk to request additional. And the legislative hearing notice that was mailed out was actually attached to that sign, conveying the exact same that was conveyed to the property. I think in general, it is difficult to contact everyone, but in this case, the property owners ultimately have the standing to either inform their tenants or not, but we do try to make sure that with the signage that anyone who sees the property can have the opportunity to provide it.
So my question
Let me make one comment too, because I'm virtual. If the board members will please make sure to speak directly into the microphones. They're unidirectional, so we only get about every other word or so.
So can you hear me now?
So Kyle,
Yes, that's great.
I don't know if the mask is going to hinder it either since we're virtual. But the question I have for you is, there was all these other violations before they came to us that regardless of what we're trying to do, it was still the problems that were already existing. Is that still something that we need to also keep in mind while we're trying to decide, or if these violations have been answered? Has he took care of them any kind of way before we move forward?
So the primary violations that have taken place to date have to do with the parking of vehicles on the lot. Initially, there were many vehicles parked the side yard. I believe at one time there were 5 vehicles parked in the side yard. I have worked with Mike, and he has removed those vehicles, and at least to my knowledge, and I don't know if James goes by there fairly frequently, there have not been any vehicles parked in the side yard since that date. Now, I have also heard some concerns about parking in the front. What I would say about that is, with any business use, they are allowed to use the front parking area for employee parking or customer parking. It is a fact that that is a fairly small lot, and so it can appear to get crowded fairly quickly with the regular day in and day out business. The times that I've driven by there have not been any vehicles parked where they shouldn't be. All of the vehicles have been parked forward of the front edge of the building in what is the parking lot area. And even Mr. King has rearranged the landscaping blocks to expand the parking area in a way that doesn't create parking on grass. So the issue with vehicles parked where they shouldn't be has, in my view, been fairly reasonably addressed. I think the fact is it is a fairly small lot, so on a day-to-day basis, there may be some vehicles that appear to crowd the front parking lot.
All right, thank you. Are there other questions from the board for Mr. Harris? Okay. With that, we will move forward then and open this public hearing up for members of the public to speak. And my understanding is that we do have at least one or possibly more from the public. So if you will, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and then your 3 minutes will begin following that.
I'm going to remove my mask because I lisp and people don't claim they can't understand me. My name is Leslie Ann Talbot. I live at 308 North Salisbury Avenue, Central. And I'm here to talk about what I perceive to be the impact of 200 Salisbury being changed to conditional zoning for a vehicular service. Further down Salisbury Avenue, we have a whole section of Salisbury Avenue that is apparently vehicular service use. And there are empty buildings there for use. This particular building sits right across from the transportation. And the perception of our town is created by the look of Salisbury Avenue. And I personally don't feel that having a vehicular service repair shop with cars in various and sundry disrepair, even though they're trying to keep it on their lot, which may be too small for the volume, they're not presenting our best foot forward to the world. I'm also concerned about spillage. Say, oh, well, these are cars under repair. They don't have gas or oil, or yes, they do. We've had fires in the metal lot because they said they were empty and they weren't. I'm concerned about the contamination. I realize they're changed to vehicular service controls and conditions, but it sits right next to a residential area. I'm just concerned about it. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think the change is appropriate. That's just my opinion. And I think I haven't used up my 3 minutes, but I will say thank you. Good holiday.
All right, thank you, Ms. Talbot. Are there others wishing to speak tonight?
Hi, my name is Thomas Ward. I live at 109 2nd Street, Spencer. My property is directly adjacent to the property that's under conditional rezoning, or under attempted conditional rezoning. I haven't had any bad experience with Mike. He's been there for, I think, since July or August. He's definitely made a lot of attempt to minimize the impact to the area, while still being able to conduct business. He's moved a lot of the vehicle repair inside, as well as made upgrades to the building to conduct business there. Spencer is a transportation town, and with transportation comes care and service. I think that it would be appropriate for it to be. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ward. Are there others wishing to speak tonight? All right. Ms. Craven, have we received any written correspondence for this hearing?
No.
Okay. Very good. With that, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion from the board to do so?
Motion.
There's a motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second to close the hearing? Second
Second.
by Ms. Sledge. All in favor? All right. All opposed? All right. The hearing is officially closed. And with that, we will take this under advisement at next Tuesday's regularly scheduled Board of Aldermen meeting. Okay. We will now move on to the second part of our agenda this evening, and that is to consider the agenda for next Tuesday's meeting. And so each of the board members, you should have your agenda packet before you. We will have an invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I would ask if there is a board member that is willing to lead us in that invocation on Tuesday. All right, Ms. Sledge, thank you for volunteering. And with that, the next item will be the approval of our minutes from November 4th and November 9th, both the pre-agenda and regular meeting agenda. What we will do is consider tonight anything we want to add to a specific consent agenda next Tuesday. I will remind our current board that we will have the addition of 2 new board members next Tuesday. So we should be cognizant of that as we assign our consent agenda items to give them the ability to have full consideration of items coming before the board. So with that, I would recommend that the approval of minutes, because those are a matter of our current board, that those be placed on the consent agenda for Tuesday night. Is the board in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. We will do that then. The next item is the organization and procedure of Mayor and Board of Aldermen. And so with this, we will have an oath of office that will be administered to the new board members. And we are planning to have Judge Marshall Bickett present to do that. Then we will also consider establishing the time and place for the board's regular meetings in 2022. And then we will conduct an election for Mayor Pro Tem for 2022 and 2023. Mr. Franzese, is there anything you want to speak about tonight as far as logistics of our oath of office and those matters with swearing in our new board members and recognizing our outgoing board members?
No, I think you've summarized it, Mayor. I will note on the matter of approval of minutes, I don't know if procedurally it'd be preferred for the current board members to approve the minutes rather than the consent agenda will appear in the agenda later on after the transition has happened. So just wanted to note that.
We can do that. That'll be fine. Let's keep it regular agenda. Our current board members, before they, before the board switches over, will then approve those minutes. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Franzese?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we will also consider additions and deletions and adoption of the agenda. At this point, I do want to point out there is a request from the town manager for one of the items on the agenda for next Tuesday to be brought forward to tonight for consideration based on timing. And Mr. Franzese, I will give the floor to you to bring that before the board.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and members of the board. On the agenda proposed currently for Tuesday, number 20 is a resolution in order to surplus the firearm and badge for our retired police chief, Chief James. Tomorrow afternoon, there is an event planned out here in the parking lot, actually, in order to do it safely for a retirement event. And so the desire would be for this resolution to be considered this evening so that these items could be presented to Chief James during the event tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Franzese. Are there questions from the board at this time?
Now,
All right.
if I didn't
Is
say
the
the
board
time, I'm sorry. If I didn't say the time, I'll say it one more. 2:00 p.m. here out front of the. It's actually going to take place near the old bank drive-through. Currently, it's part of the Museum Foundation's property.
Very good. And we hope that everyone will be able to come out and to celebrate that milestone with Chief James. So with that, is the board agreeable to considering this action tonight? And if so, is there a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make
Yes,
a motion that we accept the resolution dash for Chief James.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bish. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? All right. All opposed? And that is approved. And for the benefit of those listening, I will read that resolution so that you have the full benefit of hearing that. If I can get to it.
It's at page 252 in the packet.
Thank you. There are just a few more pages than normal this month. All right, very good. So this is a resolution authorizing the surplus of service firearm and badge of Chief of Police Michael James upon his retirement. It's resolution 21-029 for the town of Spencer. And whereas North Carolina General Statute 20-187.2 provides for the award of the badge worn by a retiring law enforcement officer and allows for the governing body of a law enforcement agency in its discretion to award a retiring member upon request the service firearm of the retiring member at a price determined by the governing body. And whereas Police Chief Michael James has retired from the town of Spencer Police Department effective December 1st, 2021, and whereas Chief James served the town of Spencer honorably for 11 years, and whereas Chief James had focused on crime reduction, customer service, and partnerships with the community. In the past year, he led an effort to form the Police Chief's Citizen Advisory Board in the town, and whereas the town manager has requested permission to present Chief James his issued service firearm and badge at no cost upon his retirement, And now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen do hereby declare the service firearm and badge used by Police Chief Michael James during his service to the town of Spencer as surplus property and instruct that they be issued to him at no cost upon his retirement. All right. And again, we thank Chief James for his service very, very much over the past 11 years. And again, hopefully everybody can attend at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And then hopefully you can stay for the Winterfest celebration after that. All right. Thank you, board, for considering that this evening. We will now move on. We will consider several appointments. We do this each election cycle for appointments to the North Carolina Department of Transportation NPO and TAC and TCC representatives, and also to the Central Carolina Council of Government. So we will do that with our new board on Tuesday. And then we will also move with item number 7 and make recognitions. And so at this time, are there any recognitions from the board or from staff that we need to be aware of and plan for next Tuesday? I will add one, that is for our Winterfest organizers. We will make a verbal recognition, but we will plan to do something more formal at our January meeting. So I just want the board to be aware of that. We appreciate all the work that's gone into planning such a successful event. We want to be able to recognize those folks accordingly, but we will plan to do something a little larger at our January meeting. Are there other recognitions that you'd like to make on Tuesday? Yes, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a recommendation. I'll make it myself on the Spencer Senior Citizen Club that put on the dinner for senior citizens. Spencer on Tuesday.
Okay. I will make note of that, and we'll be sure to give you time to recognize them. Thank you. Are there others at this time?
Department.
That's your way of saying you recognize them.
Speak up. Can't hear you down here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was not able to hear that.
Oh. I said that I believe our Public Works Department has gone and beyond in the last few weeks. All the work. Conjunction with that, also with leaf pickup.
Okay. Very good. And I will also say we want to make sure that we recognize not only Public Works for their role in Winterfest, but also our fire department and our police department. They have all truly gone above and beyond. Everybody's really chipped in and helped to make it such a successful event. So we'll be sure to recognize them as well. All right. Are there others?
I would just say there's not a portion of the town staff that didn't get involved in one way or the other. So it's certainly
That's exactly right.
a team effort.
Jonathan,
Yes,
can y'all hear me?
we can.
Can we recognize Alderman Hovis and Alderman Bish for their service to the town?
We are already
Okay.
planning to do that.
I thought you were. Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Are there others?
Cheers.
Okay. Thank you all very much. All right. We will then receive public comment. We will consider a consent agenda at this point. So if there is anything that you want to identify as consent agenda at this point, as we go through the agenda, please note that, and we will add that to the consent agenda. But again, we will have new board members. So it would be my recommendation that we dispense with the consent agenda items this month and give the new board a chance to consider all agenda items individually. Okay. The item number 10, the board will consider adopting an ordinance that would amend the zoning map and rezone the property at 200 South Salisbury Avenue. That this is related to the public hearing that we heard tonight. So that will be an item that we will consider. We'll receive some additional reports from Mr. Harris, consider the information we've heard tonight, as well as the other information gathered to date for this case, and act accordingly. Then we have several appointments to our appointed boards. One would be for Ms. Jessica Klaus to the Spencer Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term expiring at the end of 2024. An appointment for Mr. Tim Witkowski to the Spencer Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term, also expiring at the end of 2024. And then considering reappointing Miss Nancy Boyd and Miss Leslie Ann Talbot to the Spencer Historic Preservation Commission for a 4-year term that would expire in 2025. All right. Any questions so far on those items?
Mr. Mayor, Slade, on those, for the, I believe when do their start, January, or start at typically Monday prior to our board meeting?
They would be appointed. They would join us in January for our regular. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I just wondered if we needed to approve those.
No, our boards and commissions actually don't meet in December, as a holiday month.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions thus far? Okay. The next item will be considering authorizing staff to apply for a T-Mobile hometown grant for revitalization of the 8th Street Ballpark. We will receive an update from Mr. Joe Morris, and I believe also perhaps from Mr. Joel Taylor about that particular grant application. So we look forward to hearing that. Item 16, we will receive our departmental reports for each of our town departments, and then we will also receive our town manager report. Mr. Franzese, anything tonight that we need to be aware of regarding those items?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question because I won't be able to ask the next one. So, reference to your manager, Richard, I didn't see anything about a sheriff's department. Where are we with that? Where are we with that right?
So in terms of the sheriff's office, that is underway. The deputies are assisting the town as needed. And in terms of process for police chief search, I'm awaiting some information from the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. I've had an initial discussion with them, and I'm awaiting a proposal from them to assist us with the search process.
The last one also, finance. I see you went ahead and brought back Mr. Coughlin. Therefore, are we at?
Actually, the PTRC would also be helping us with that search as well. Yes. So
You calls for a town. Sheriff office.
I believe this is going to be a 3 to 6 month process. Again, I'm awaiting their proposal so we can get it billed down. Likely for both. I believe any search for a position of either of those positions. It just takes that amount of time to go through the process for the recruitment and bringing folks in and going through the selection process and getting them on board. So
That's in your belief, right?
yes.
It doesn't take that long. Take you no longer than a month or two to get that done. Didn't. Day that we're using the sheriff office, and each day, give me, because I wasn't speaking into the mic, and each day that we're using Mr. Softly, which I don't know what you're paying him hourly, but I can guarantee it's a lot. It's something where once you get moved in here, Peter, the one thing about a council member that was up here, we already know what's going on. I don't want to have to come back in the audience here and talk about and ask why. Okay.
Be happy for that. And if Mr. Softly is helping the town as a bookkeeper, he's not in here on a daily basis. Christy Hutchinson is the town's interim finance officer as she served previous time. And so, yes, Mr. Softly is assisting the town on a part-time as needed basis.
And just understand my objection, because we just went from being part-time for so long that her being gone and the notice of the finance person leaving with 30 days. We're still here thinking it's going to take 3 to 6 months. Just not going to be tolerated. Not while I'm still living. Might not be on the board, but I'm going to let you know that it didn't take 3 to 6 months to even look for a seat. Okay?
I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other input from the board?
Are we looking at
I have not discussed this with them due to the town's prior work with PTRC and their familiarity with some of our programs that we've done between the personnel policy and the comp plan and such, and previous hiring processes that they've assisted the town with. I've only talked at this time to the folks at the PTRC. I'd be happy to entertain.
part of it?
Yes.
And just want to make sure we're paying them too. We're paying them. Don't we have something associated?
Central Line, yes. So there's a membership dues, but if we were to retain their services for a process like this, there would be a cost of them, just as there would PTRC do that.
I see. So you're doing what you think is right. 3 to 6 months. Sure, you the COG probably service.
I'd be glad to reach out to Central Line and see what they would propose.
Don't want it to be somebody you know kind of hiring here. Spencer's moving on, Peter, and it shouldn't be this good old boy hire anymore. It should be with great qualifications. And I'm not talking about the skin color either. I'm talking about we need to start getting some good qualified people, not somebody next door or somebody across the bridge kind of. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on in the consideration of agenda items. We have several property liens from our code enforcement for abatement actions that we will consider. That's attachment 11. We will then consider a budget ordinance amendment. And that is in particular related to, if I can get to it, relates to our fire department, is my understanding. Mr. Frenzies, do you want to briefly explain that to the board?
Yes. The board is familiar with the idea of purchasing a utility vehicle for fire department use, and looking for the item in the packet. The And so this would be a budget amendment to fund that, and what the amendment would do, we had originally in the budget an amount for purchase of land associated with future fire department expansion. That possibility of purchasing land is not currently a viable option, and so this will appropriate the funding in order for the use of purchasing and equipping a utility vehicle for the fire department. And a trailer as well.
Off-road vehicle. Spencer Forest.
If you'll
Back in the pre-agenda meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Seekers had brought up that idea of, would we have an incident in Standback Forest? How would we get to the backside? With continuing working relationship with the museum, that will assist us there with pub ed events and so forth. We don't have to commit and use the wear and tear of our larger apparatus. We get back and forth hydrant maintenance. And the one thing, Mr. Franzese, I did want to make note of, I didn't realize till today, is the quote for the UTV actually expires on the 12th. So I don't know if that's something that we want to wait till next week. I just don't know if there's going to be any inflation costs from government. I did notice that earlier.
Well, even if the cost went,
Absolutely. I wouldn't imagine it more than, if anything, a couple $100 from 1 month's quote.
So you did explore the, I think at one time we had said that there had been a
The golf cart. Yeah, there was a golf cart previously. What this one is, it'll be 4-wheel drive. It'll actually give us the capability to get up and down the hills across the river. That would look
other
like.
one was
Yes.
isn't that golf cart still in, sir?
Yes.
And I don't mean for
believe.
you, because truth be told, it was supposed to be for loan. Have you been able to use? It was mostly for you. This right here, that I'm looking at, fire department. Later.
Yeah, it's a Polaris Ranger. It will also include a skid unit in the back that'll hold 85 gallons of water and a section for a stokes.
See, here's the thing, here's the caveat reference to precious vehicle. Yeah, obviously, supervision, which you've done very well. They'll always will commend you. Done. But make sure you eyeball this thing, because such a, in the day, those playful things. When you're not around, that's what happened to our golf cart. Sure, the fire department is having a hard time and operating.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Chief. You're gonna be able to keep this in the kinds of bays?
Yes, sir.
Have
Yeah. So the plan for that is to actually relocate our car, park it outside, keep it secured and locked in the parking lot. It's only truly utilized for personnel to drive back and forth to class. And then the UTV will stay parked on the trailer back in the bay. So would we need it? It's already on the trailer.
Sorry, people. That price also that you're on it? Not included.
So the UTV, I think, was roughly $17,000. The skid was $4,600, $4,700, and the trailer was additional. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. The next item, we have already considered item 20, the resolution for the surplus of firearm and badge, and so we will not include that on next week's agenda. The next item will be consideration of resolution 21-030 that would formally outline contracting, bidding, surplus property, and settling claims thresholds for the town manager. Authority to be able to execute those. As you recall, right now, we do not have a specific written policy around that. There's basically only been a rule of thumb, per se, in the past. And so this would actually serve to specify what the authority of the town manager is specifically related to these specific items and set the financial thresholds at which to do that. And so what we will do is we will allow Mr. Franzese on Tuesday to walk us through the proposed resolution and discuss that and consider that at that time. The other then is to consider authorizing the town manager to execute a professional services agreement. And Mr. Franzese, if you may want to mention something on this, but my understanding this is for design-based services for the new Park Plaza park based on RFQ responses that we recently received.
Yes, and it would be for design of the new town park, as well as an update of the town's Parks and Recreation master plan, and teeing up the town to apply for a part of grant to help obtain some additional funding for the proposed park.
And as a reminder to the board, we have received $100,000 as a private gift to begin that process.
What are we doing with the private gift? How are we?
So last month, the board adopted a budget ordinance to appropriate, to accept this $100,000 gift and then place it into a project. We now have, just like we had a project account for this building we're in, and we have one set up for the Yadkin River Trailhead, we also have one now set up for the town park project, so that as things evolve and funds come in, it can be tracked in its own project fund.
Well, I guess I'm not asking you. These funds, just now said, this fund is for this, this fund is that, and they're going in these different directions. Meant from where they're coming from, make sure town don't get caught up in any conflicts, biases from people that we're already dealing with, whether they're on boards or business owners that we already, you know, we don't get to ever know really who, like now, who's this money coming from.
Ms. Hovis, we announced that last month when we considered this, that it's from the Foundation for the Carolinas. It's a gift from Fred Stanback.
Okay, so
When
what
we
you
received
announced
that
last
gift-
month is going to be announced this month again, kind of thing? Or we're supposed
Correct.
to remember from last month? How does that work? So I guess you're going to announce that this month again too, right? To know where it's coming from instead of just saying something we did last month, right?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I was just wanting to know because the mayor just got through saying we talked about it last month. Well, I'm not going to remember what happened last month because there's always more than what's going on in this town that's going on last month to me. Just wanted in writing reference to what the funds is for if we're going to keep accepting. Because I even got questioned from a community member saying, yeah, you're getting this money and where's it coming from? Better be careful of your sources, kind of thing. So if we got other people watching and saying it to me, I'm just bringing it and saying it out loud. This is not something where I'm just picking on you. Don't take it personal. I'm just saying this is a proper protocol of what to do. It happened last month. Say it again this month.
So I will say that it's been mentioned multiple times. The board's taken action on it. It's also been mentioned in our town newsletter as well.
Okay, then say it again, because I'm not going to remember. And I'll be back here next month, and just because I'm not here, I'm going to need you to say it to me, because I'm not going to be up here to know it. I'm going to want to know it out there. Okay? Thank you.
The next item on our agenda for Tuesday will be to consider amending our financial audit contract. Oh, I'm sorry, to accept a $10,000 grant from the Salisbury Rowing Community Foundation for the Yadkin River Trailhead, item 23. And so with that, on Tuesday, we will get an update from Mr. Morris on that successful grant application that we previously authorized town staff to pursue. And so we're excited to be able to recognize that next week. Item 24 is to consider amending the financial audit contract agreement. My understanding is we do have a new financial audit firm. And as a result of that, they have taken a little bit longer to be able to dive in and complete that audit. And my understanding is they are asking for a 2-month extension to their contract at no change in cost. Is that correct, Mr. Franzese?
Yeah, and this is a document the OGC has requested because the due date for audits is the end of October, and the auditor says that their information is going to be coming very soon, but they would like this to be formally approved to extend to the end of December this month. So we should be getting our information before the board as soon as we have it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Franzese. We will then receive requested comments by the mayor and board members, and then if needed, executive session per North Carolina General Statute. With that, is there anything else that needs to be added to the agenda that we need to consider this evening? All right. Hearing none, is there a need to go into executive session this evening?
Like not, sir.
All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Motion by Ms. Hovis. Second by Ms. Sledge. All in favor? All right. All opposed? We stand adjourned at 6:25. Thank you all very, very much, and we will see you on Tuesday.
Michael.